Welcome to the SaaS AdLab podcast, where we bring to you the stories of SaaS founders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs. My name is Luis. I'm the owner and founder of Fantom Agency, a digital marketing agency specializing in scaling SaaS companies. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Jonathan. He's the founder and CEO over at RevTrax. Thank you so much for being on today. It's a pleasure having you. And to start off, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about yourself? A little personal, like where you grew up, what you've been doing to essentially lead you to where you're at right now.
Sure. So great to be here. I would say, so I started RevTrax a couple years out of college and grew up in New York, not New York City, but Westchester, New York suburbs, and went to school, college, upstate New York, and thought I wanted to work in finance and had the opportunity and the pleasure to work in finance out of college for a couple of years. And decided that that was not really what I wanted to do and focused on. And so I would say in that 2-year out of school period was when I got together with one of my close friends from college, who is now and has been my co-founder and COO for many years. And we discussed what we wanted to build and create in terms of a new business. And I'd say honestly, we didn't really know what we wanted to start, except that we wanted to start something in this intersection of technology, data analytics, and digital marketing, areas that we were probably more passionate about than experienced in.
Right.
And through just a lot of brainstorming and networking, we bootstrapped our SaaS business, and now in our 11th year of operation. So. Did a lot right, did a lot wrong, but as I joke, we did more things right than we did wrong.
Okay, very cool. So it sounds like you've been around for about 11 years, right? And you mentioned an interesting thing that I feel like not a lot of people actually talk about is, that the fact that they did some things wrong, and they are everywhere, right? Like everyone makes mistakes, everyone has those kind of, hiccups and stuff like that. Like what would you say has been the biggest thing that you kind of stumbled upon that you just didn't even know how to tackle it?
Where to start? I'd say categorically it was people.
Mm-hmm.
It was people. So we started this company when we were each 23, 24 maybe. And so as you might expect, not a whole lot of work experience, and certainly not a whole lot of entrepreneurial growth experience. And so a lot of the mistakes we made over 11 years were people related, in terms of lacking the processes to hire the best people or retain them, or how to structure the management team. And so everything from over expanding headcount, hiring some of the wrong people, the culture overall, I think, was always something I was passionate about. So I feel pretty strongly that our culture was always a beacon for everybody who's worked here, and I think has carried us through some challenging times. But the biggest challenges I think we faced as entrepreneurs, young first-time entrepreneurs, was scaling the organization.
Right.
And mostly around people, more so than technology.
Okay, very well. And I did notice, so let's talk a little bit more about culture, right? And this is something that I did take a little bit of a peek at the LinkedIn page, and I saw on the banner it mentioned that RevTrax was named as one of the top, companies to work for. I forgot exactly by who, but what is it that makes a good culture in your opinion? What should you look for when hiring people to make sure that you have a winning team?
Sure. That's a great question. So I'll give you the non-textbook answer, and then I'll give you some more of the specifics. But my feeling is that what makes a great culture is an experience that colleagues have, both when they work here and even more importantly, that they keep with them after they've left.
Okay. So
this idea that, we have over 11 years, for better or worse, I think for better, we've had, we have a big alumni association, if you will, of what we call ex-Traxers.
Mm-hmm.
And, what's very rewarding to me is how those people who, may not have worked here for 8 years, and others who may not have worked here for 6 months, reflect on their time here as being, in many cases, the most meaningful period of their careers. And so I would say that that's at the core of culture is taking care of people, creating a mission that people can, feel attached to, and ultimately living by core values. And that's something that we didn't really define up front in the formative years, but as we began to understand what our culture was, which was one that I really had a strong role in molding and creating, I thought it was important to kind of put definition around. And so defining those values and trying to ingrain them into the fabric of the company so that people understand what the expectations are for and from each other. To me, that's culture. We talk about perks as a very separate thing. It always irks me when companies talk about culture as, foosball and free lunch. I don't believe that that's what culture is. I think, I'm also kind of nerdy that way. I studied sociology in college to a decent extent, and I'm a believer that culture is how people behave in a shared environment. And those people can behave, in my opinion, the right way. And there are also some cultures where people, even against their own best nature, behave the wrong way. And behave in negative ways. And so, we've always really aspired to, create an environment where people feel comfortable and are empowered to, do their best work.
That's awesome. And it's definitely something that I see too, because I've been obviously in the agency space. And I feel like it's a little bit similar to that of a startup as far as, like the things that are considered culture, like doing, all the fun things that everyone wants to be doing at a company and stuff like that. And I don't think necessarily that's what defines the culture of a place. Like you said, aside from like how people actually behave within the company, which I think is very interesting. Now, let's kind of shift a little bit here and talk a little bit more about the actual company, right? So RevTrax, what is the main problem that you're currently solving at the moment?
So the main problem that we're solving is ultimately one that we observed 11 years ago and has been going on, maybe for 100 years, is the fact that so many large B2C brands, direct, consumer-facing brands, are too promotional and discount too much. And so our ideal client, and we work with many large brands, global brands or national brands, big companies, are, if they're a big brand, they do a lot of digital marketing, they're heavily promotional and discount focused, and most importantly, they want to be more effective and efficient, i.e. they want to discount less, but don't know how and don't want to go cold turkey because that usually doesn't work. And so our SaaS platform is really focused on, we call it offer management, but fundamentally it's really about offer and discount optimization by using AI and data that is inherent and native in our platform that we collect in order to figure out what is the right discount level for you as a consumer that we believe is going to be the least discount possible to get you to purchase. Very cool. And so this idea of going from broad-based, universal, everybody gets 20% off in their email, to a world where everybody doesn't get 20% off, and everybody gets, call it a more personalized offer or customized offer that is really based on intelligence around what is your willingness to pay and how discount sensitive are you, is really our mission. And so if we can help a client go from 20% off to everybody to 15% off on average, through giving some people 5%, some people 0%, some people 25%,
it's a huge
average it down. It's a huge difference in gross margin and profitability.
Totally. That's really cool. And I think, obviously, like, we don't have to get into the details, but I think it would be interesting to learn a little bit more about like how you actually go about doing those things, right?
Yep. Well, what I can share is, so we built out of the gate a SaaS platform that we call an offer management platform. We have clients basically onboard their discounts, their coupons, their promo codes. They configure it within our tool, and then they will plug in our technology into their email, for example, that they're going to send out. And our technology will determine what is the right offer in that pool of offers the client has created when you open the email. Okay, so this idea of RevTrax kind of is middleware between the digital marketing you as a brand are probably doing, especially, you know, a large brand, email, CRM, SEM, you know, display media, search engine marketing, affiliate marketing, social, all these channels. What you will do as a client is you would load up a pool of offers in our system, integrate our technology into any of those marketing channels you want to activate, and then we would basically run the intelligence to determine what offer a consumer should see. And ideally, what you would see would be consistent across any channel that we would be deployed in. Meaning, one of the big annoyances from consumers and brands is that you get an email from brand A and you get one offer, you go to the brand's website and you get a different offer, and you go on social media and you see a different offer. And it's like, who's running this, right? And who's orchestrating this? And the answer is it's all siloed and very fragmented. So our vision is to really bring an enterprise-wide offer management solution to help the brands coordinate their marketing, which may be done in silos and in a fragmented way, but to deliver a consistent and optimized from a cost standpoint what the discount is that you see. And so a lot of our SaaS platform, which we've historically sold on a volume-based business model, committed tiers of usage on an annual basis. So a lot like an email service provider might charge. So we're not a seat-based model. It's more volume and usage driven, and it's use it or lose it tier commitments.
Very cool.
But one of the things that has always been core to our vision is when we sell a client like yourself, and you're using our offers, you know, using RevTrax to manage your offers through your paid media or whatever, we're collecting anonymized user behavior around how your consumers are engaging with your offers, different levels of offers, depth of offers, types of offers, in which channel. And we have always built a data architecture to sort of capture those observations, we call them.
Very cool.
Which are not tied to you as a person, but more anonymous, anonymized behavior.
Just to understand people overall, correct?
To understand the user behavior, that then we can use AI and deep learning and other things to actually analyze at a level that, you know, most humans can't, and be able to then create models that will allow us to respond to different types of consumers we might see for the first time, who have attributes and behavioral attributes like people we have observed. So that strategy of we sell a SaaS platform that collects data that can be repurposed to deliver more value for clients to help determine the optimal offer is, you know, it took 8 years to sort of get to a data set that could be analyzed and where data science could be applied. And it took 2 years to sort of get to where we're at this year and launched our AI platform at the beginning of the year.
Nice.
But that was the evolution, was SaaS, capturing data, harness the data, model the data, and then use that to actually make our clients' lives easier, because, you know, they don't need to think about all the rules and logic they want to run and spend all the time doing that work. Whereas, you know, they're using intuition, which can be misleading and may not be accurate. And what they're tapping into with RevTrax is 10 years of, you know, all user behavior captured on our platform that goes way beyond their scope with their company and their customers. But then also this way of automating it so that decisions can be made using a much broader set of data and richer data set that can be used to respond, you know, instantly, versus requiring the manual effort that historically was required. That's how we do it. You know, at a sort of mid level, it's extremely innovative. And what we found is that nobody had really been tackling offer management as a best-in-class platform
Mhm.
the way we have. And that was really why we started this business, was saying offer management's an afterthought, that if you're an e-commerce platform or if you're an email marketing company, you might have tools to do offer management, but they tend to be pretty shallow in terms of their functionality.
Mhm.
And so we said, hey, we think the world of discounting needs to change. We think there's opportunity. Let's solve it with a much more robust solution that can plug into everything else.
Totally. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Now, as far as marketing and actually acquiring customers for RevTrax, what has been one of the best, one of the most efficient things to do in that regards? Like, how are you currently getting your clients?
No, that's a great question. So, I mean, I'd say marketing is something that we could and have always needed to improve.
Hmm.
I think there are companies that fall on different sides of the spectrum in terms of great product, great service, less so on sales and marketing, and then those that are great sales and marketing and less strong on the product
Hmm.
and services. We have always sort of fallen on the former side.
Hmm.
Strong product, strong services, um, delivering value for big clients, but really sales and marketing hasn't been as strong. And so how do we market and find clients? I would tell you that we're activating, our marketing mix is pretty robust. We have found that actually organic search, I don't think it's a huge shocker, but organic search has actually produced the most and highest quality leads into the funnel that have converted into sales. We've done a bunch around account-based marketing. We've done a bunch around paid social through targeted LinkedIn. We've done pay-per-click search ads. We do a lot of email lead nurturing, which can be enhanced significantly. And we do PR from a thought leadership standpoint.
Hmm.
And I'd say that the biggest thing we can do from a brand standpoint is thought leadership and content. And so that's where you'll see bylines, you'll see white papers, you'll see case studies, you'll see benchmarking reports
Yeah.
using our data to try to educate the market, because that's still our biggest challenge, is educating the
100%.
market around why they need an offer management platform to solve a pretty pervasive, significant problem that either they don't think can be solved or they're trying to solve in some other way.
Totally. And I feel like that's something that you see across the board with strong B2B players, right? Like a lot of times you don't see them spending a lot of money on advertising or anything like that. And I did take a look at what RevTrax is currently doing, and it looks like the only thing that's going on social, as far as I can tell, is LinkedIn. And it was exactly what you said, like benchmarking reports to kind of educate more. So, but really, I think what kind of gets lost is the fact that a lot of the times the people that you're going after don't even know that they have that problem. So then they can't look for a solution if they don't know that they have a problem.
So what I found is that actually a lot of our market knows they have the problem.
Mhm.
The challenge is a lot of those businesses don't know there's a solution to that problem and have, to a large extent, stopped looking externally,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That they're saying, hey, yeah, over discounting is a huge problem. We're bleeding margin. Our margins and profitability are eroding. Like, it's a problem they know they have. They want to stop discounting and couponing, but the approach and the solve has not been one that has been solvable externally. So they'll often look internally and say, hey, we're on the internal analytics team. Let's do some more manual analytics work to see if we can figure out how to solve the problem. So more like services, consulting, either internal or even with an external party to try to solve the problem versus trying to solve it with software. So that's our biggest challenge is educating the market that there is a solution, finally sort of a solution to a bunch of these problems that they've known they've had for a long time.
Is there anything that you wish you could do to educate further at a bigger scale, essentially?
Wow. I mean, yeah, there's always stuff I wish we could be doing more of. I think it comes down to, still figuring out and finding the optimal message for the buyer, and that the buyer for a solution like ours will vary industry by industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so figuring out a scalable way to, get our message out there to the potential buyers within these large consumer facing organizations, that's sort of the big puzzle we've got to solve right now.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Now let's talk a little bit more about the personal side of growing a company. While doing this for the past 11 years, what's been like the single hardest thing to do, day in and day out to kind of like stay sane and just make sure that you're doing everything you can to grow the company to where it is?
The hardest thing, it's the hardest thing is keeping all the balls in the air that need to be juggled. And, sometimes recognizing that I can't juggle another ball, right? Otherwise, I'll juggle another ball and two will drop.
Yeah.
Figuring out, at any moment in time, what's the priority? Prioritization, I'd say, is probably the hardest thing, because in growing a company, there are always challenges and opportunities. The very real need for founders to be in multiple places at once. And so figuring out how to manage all these things, and over time, how to delegate and how to empower others, I think is a challenge for many entrepreneurs. You start off and you're doing a lot, right? I had two co-founders, so we're all doing everything. I could only imagine, somebody starting it all by themselves. And then you grow, and it's now, now I have other people who have specialized skills, and I can delegate.
Mm-hmm.
I can have them do what they're best at, because I'm not necessarily as good at that. And so, it's taken better part of a decade, to kind of get stride. But that's hard. And figuring out, again, what is a burning priority, what isn't. Sometimes it's only after the fact that you know that.
Totally. What's the single most important thing that you've learned so far through these, 11 years?
Single most important thing. I think eyes wide open, 11 years in, what the magnitude of difference, not that it's less challenging or more challenging, but how different it is to start a company where we today, now 11 years in, have been aspiring to create a new category, versus what it would be like if we were, simply kind of inventing a better mousetrap, so to speak.
Right.
And just the magnitude of effort that I feel like it has taken to go the path that we have, which intuitively makes sense, to convince you to do something you've never done before, never bought before, versus do something you've done but a little better. Yeah, it's hard. I think it's super rewarding. But I'd say that was probably the biggest lesson I learned, was maybe to be a little more aware of that when we jumped into this thing head first. I don't know that we would have made super different decisions, but I do think the best thing we ever did was actually not raise VC money, because I think that trying to establish a market and a category is hard to rush with capital.
Yeah, they would have wanted that quick return.
They would have wanted that quick return, and they wouldn't have gotten it. Is my point. And so our business may not be around today if we had gone down that path. So I think that, I'm not a believer that things work out for a reason. Sometimes they do. I believe we can create our own luck, and then, put ourselves in a position to get lucky and be successful. But that was probably a big learning lesson, which was, and we thought we wanted to raise outside capital.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been a mistake, because the market adoption simply took longer than initially expected. So I think we're pretty fortunate that that it played out the way it did.
Right. What is one SaaS company that you look up to and say, like if we could do something similarly to another one, it would be this one?
Good question. Well, I'll tell you the company that I've always admired going back to day one of our business was um, one of the probably maybe the most successful email marketing enterprise email marketing company, uh, which is a Exact Target, which got acquired by Salesforce.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remember because they were an early partner of ours, so we got a glimpse at sort of their organization, their culture, um, how they sort of reinvented in many ways this fairly boring thing called email marketing, and just did it so differently than others and had a SaaS platform. It's really interesting how they were successful, and they were very, very successful. But we also took some ideas from them on pricing when we developed our current pricing model 10 years ago.
Very cool.
So yeah, they're an example I look to on a bunch of different levels.
Has the pricing model changed at all from when you first started to now? I'm sure the prices have, but has a model changed at all?
So yes, from day zero, but the the aha moment kind of year one, year two in the business was inspired by our learning about how Exact Target charged
Mm-hmm.
in terms of a usage-based SaaS model.
Mm-hmm.
And we took that and incorporated that into our business model.
Great. Now, last couple questions here. Do you have a favorite book that you recommend?
Ooh, so I guess I call this recency bias. Recency bias because it's a book that I'm not even done with, but I think it is. I'm really enjoying it. Is the Phil Knight Shoe Dog book, The Story of Nike.
Okay.
I like it a lot because it's just a very humble storytelling of how Nike came to be, and I didn't know really many of the details, and it's sort of an entrepreneurial oriented story with obviously a major success at the end of it. So I'm really enjoying that book. And then from a business standpoint, I like the Challenger Sale, and I like a book called Mindset, Mindset, which is a little bit of the psychology of business and people. So yeah, I mean those are sort of my top favorites.
And where can people find you online?
They can find me at RevTrax.com. They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me on my own personal blog at JonathanTreiber.com, and Twitter. Those are the usual spots.
Awesome, sweet. And the last question: do you have any questions for me, Jonathan?
I don't. I mean, I'm curious how you decided to do this podcast entrepreneurially, and you may not be able to get into it now, but you just wanted to thank you for having me on and appreciate it.
Definitely. Quick little on the podcast. I really wanted to get in front of people like yourself, SaaS founders, understand how they're growing their companies, and essentially at one point I do want to start my own software company, and really just learning through you, right? Like what is it that has worked on a scale, and learning the steps that have been taken for the most successful companies, and what can I then kind of take away from that to implement myself later on. So
it's a smart move.
Yeah, trying to learn from the best.
Well, there's no one path to success.
That's true.
And we're not at the in the end zone yet.
Mm.
But it's I mean, smart move, incorporate the learning. Ironically, you'll make plenty of mistakes, and I think that's the
fun part.
Journey. Yeah, is to get out there and start doing it, because
totally.
Everybody's journey is different, but it's rewarding. So good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And well, thanks everyone so much for being on here. Thank you, Jonathan, again for the time, and I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bye.